early afternoon. We're live. I'm Andy Andrews. You joined us on the Blue Plate Special. It's a sunny Tuesday and it's cold. It's cold to me anyway. I know you people in the studio audience are generally from colder climes, but this is cold to me. I've been cold all day. I think I almost came in here with a blanket. It's cold in here to me. And I'm not usually a cold person. Martin Simmons, sunny cold in Mayberry today. Cooper says, hey, Ruth Cordell, or Cordell, I'm not sure, Southwest Virginia. You guys got hit by snow, didn't you? Sandy Atkins, happy Tuesday from El Salvador. You're on the beach. Well, we know there's no snow in El Salvador. Marcy Taylor, foggy, rainy, Richland, Washington. And, you know, I was out of town the past couple of days, and it was so hot Friday and Saturday around here. And, I mean, I was out of town, but I wasn't much out of town. I was only like a couple of steps out of town. And it was so hot. It was like 84 degrees in February. So, but I guess that's why you people come down here, isn't it? I'll bet. All right. We got a packed house today and a bunch of people online all over the world. Shanda Danner, how you doing? So you watch the, I have a hard time calling it a sermon. And I've got to blow my nose. I mean, I'm just telling you. I know this is live, but I've got to. Are you bring me up? Okay, now there's several ways I can do this. I can kind of duck around. I can go off camera, but I can't avoid doing it. That's the one thing I can't avoid doing. So. Hang on, I'll make sure I'm off camera and I turn my back to the people in the studio audience. Something you don't see on live TV very much. You know, my wife says, what are you doing? What? You know, last time I did that, she just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Just drip? You know, I can just sit here and be constant entertainment, or just, you know how you watch somebody doing something and they don't know they're next to a wall or something and they're about to fall off it and you're going, ah. That would be me with a drip, like right here. Everybody would be watching, go, here we go. So, God, that sounded like I got pneumonia. So you watch the sermon. I have a hard time calling a sermon. I spoke at the church at Floribama, but I always say I'm speaking at Floribama. And people say, so you preaching? I'm bringing the message. I have a hard time calling myself a preacher, but I did have a kind of a mean topic. You know, our preacher at church left town, and he's in the middle of a sermon series, and and so usually if they ask me to bring the message, it's kind of just, you know, whatever is on your heart at the time, whatever you would like to. But this time he gave me a topic and left town. I mean, he was in the middle of a sermon series and he had talked about gratitude and joy and generosity. And then he leaves me repent and hangs and leaves town. Repent, not even repentance. It's like repent. So I felt like standing up there and pounding the thing. Emily Strong says, needing to blow my nose proves I am real. Was there any doubt of that? Tammy Nance says, well, the temperature in the office is usually below freezing. Well, that's true. It is usually cold here because that's usually the way I like it. But anyway, Dina Kilpatrick, good afternoon. Got a half mile of your walk to finish, but thanks for an excuse for the break. Good. And SB, we hope you're feeling better. SB's been under the weather. She's at home. And I was just texting with her. Darlene McIntyre from Prince Rupert, British Columbia. David Rawson, almost missed the show. Hello, Lady Paget. How are you doing, everybody? Elijah Paget, Area Paget, Zion Paget. The whole Paget family is here if you haven't guessed. Now, the Paget family, this is a homeschooling family. And I think the kids like me because their mom must give them a break to watch the show. And so, anyway, all right. Angela Knapp says, own that nose blow. My sister, Christy Woods, is here. Today we're going to talk about best first lines in songs. Now, this is obviously a topic that everybody has their opinion on. But since this is my show, it's my opinion. Okay, and so we'll see if you agree with my opinion. I realized when I was jotting these down, though, I realized they're kind of an older opinion. I don't think these would be the opinion of my boys. And so somehow I feel like Bill Gaither here, 90 years old, talking about music. Of course, he has something he can talk about. All I can talk about is somebody else's music. But being a writer, I think the first lines are important. I think they're important in a book, because it makes you... I mean, have you ever read the first page of a book and go, I don't know, I don't want to read this? I have. And the first line can capture me or bend me the other way. And so with a song, I've got a bunch of songwriter friends, and my son is a songwriter. And so I hear a lot of theory about songwriting. I hear a lot of, and I admire those guys and ladies more than you would ever know, because I look and I think, I've got 60, 70,000 words to get my point across. They've got like 3 minutes. And I've got 60 or 70,000 words to tell a story. They've got 30 minutes. I need to put the lyrics to a song in and find out how many words that is. I'm just curious. I bet you anything it's less than 250 words. But anyway, how about this one? On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. Anybody got that? You got that, don't you? Come on, nod. Yeah, give me a thumbs up. All right, good, okay. Yeah. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. It's Hotel California, the Eagles, which I like that song, but I still, when I hear that, I always feel a little Baptist guilt listening to that song. I mean, it just seems like a devil song or something to me. That stabbed it with their steely knives, but we just can't kill the beast. I mean, you're not going to sing that when you're passing the plate. That's just... So, anyway, but it's a good first line song. How about this one? A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile. You got it? Got it? Yeah. American Pie. Don McLean. Don McLean is one of the few people that I was around some And there's some people that I got autographs from, because for a long time I didn't get autographs because I always thought people ask for my autograph and they aren't going to know where that is an hour from now. And so I thought, this is ridiculous. But then I thought, some of these people are going to be famous forever. And so that's when I started getting, I mean, you see over there in the case, I've got General Schwarzkopf signed an ammo box from Desert Storm for me. Roy Rogers signed a cowboy hat, and Peyton Manning signed helmets for the boys. So I started having them sign something of theirs. And I still hate that I didn't get Don McLean to sign a guitar for me or something, because he wrote two of my favorite songs, American Pie and Vincent. I think Vincent is one of the best songs ever written. Starry, Starry Night. And if you listen to that song and know what it's about, it'll blow your mind, because it's about Vincent van Gogh. And so, anyway, now who said that? Was that you? Yeah, I did. I did have a check from Joan Rivers that I wish I'd have kept or copied or something. I was at the end of a tour with her, and we had ended the tour in Vancouver and at the World's Fair. And I was in a dressing room, and her agent was there, and her manager was there, and the road manager was there, and the hair guy was there, and the makeup lady was there, and we were in between shows. And she said, "Where do you go from here?" And I told her I forget where I was going to, but it wasn't home. And she said, "How are you getting to the airport?" And I said, "Just taxi in the morning." And she said, "Take my limo." And I said, "Joan, I'm fine." And she said, "No, I've got it for 24 hours. They give it to me. Might as well take it. Just take it." Okay. She goes, "Have you got your money? Did you get your check?" Now, I would find out later that that was a theme with her. She was always making sure that I got my check. But she said, "Have you got your check?" And I said, "No, ma'am, not yet, but I'm fine." And so she turned to Ed Cassis, the agent, said, "Ed, where's Andy's check?" He goes, "It's at the hotel." She said, "Can you go get it?" And he said, "I've got to settle up on this second show." And she goes, "Billy, hand me my purse." It was Billy Samuth, her manager at the time. And so Billy handed her a purse, and she took out her checkbook, and she wrote out a check for the entire amount for the tour, my part, for the entire amount of the tour, on Joan Rosenberg's personal account, and gave it to me. She said, "Don't you ever leave anywhere without your money," which let me know that she has left some places and gotten hosed, you know. But I still think about that, and I think, was I just too dumb to copy that check? I mean, wouldn't you love to see that check over in my little curio cabinet there? But nope. All right, how about this? First line of a song. "Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again." Everybody got that one, don't you? Sound of Silence, Simon and Garfunkel. But I got to say, that one sounds, I mean, for a song about darkness, that one sounds pretty dark. Which you would expect a song about darkness to be dark. But that one sounds kind of scary, is what I mean. "Hello, darkness, my old friend." I mean, that just sounds kind of creepy. Do you know that Paul Simon wrote the words to that song when he was 13? He had rheumatic fever, and it caused him to go blind and deaf for a couple of weeks, and they did not know if he was going to come out of it. And his mother sat there next to him and would like keep her hand on him so he wouldn't panic, because he couldn't hear, couldn't see. And at some point he said, he said, "Are you there? Squeeze if you're there." And so she squeezed me and said, "I need a pen. I need a pen." And he wrote a lot of that. Did not write the music, but wrote, "Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again." While he was blind and deaf. And then it was years later that the song became a hit. That's not true. I made all that up. Sounds good though, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound good? Doesn't that sound like a great story? I mean, how would you write, "Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk to you again"? I mean, that sounds good that he had a rheumatic fever. I don't know if rheumatic fever makes you blind and deaf, but hey, I thought it was a great story. And I'm just here to entertain you. I'm just here to be your friend. How about this one? "Almost Heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River." Got it? Yeah. "Take Me Home, Country Roads," John Denver. You know, I guess was I too young to really be into John Denver? I really like some of his stuff, you know. How about this one? "Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere." Yes? No? Thumbs up? Down? No? That's "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. Just a small town girl. You know, right? Okay, you know that. How about this one? Now, this is one that you're not going to know. I don't know. Maybe some of you will go, "Oh, yeah." But this one, I just think sometimes rock music is I don't know. I just think that country music speaks to me more, and maybe, you know, country Americana, that kind of stuff speaks to me more. And maybe it's because I'm kind of simple and I can understand it. But you know, because when you're singing in rhymes and it's, I mean, have you ever found yourself liking a song and you know, kind of singing along with it, and then 5 years later find out what the word said? You know, so that don't happen with country music generally. I mean, you're either going to like it or hate it based on the story. And so this is I'm going to tell you this one, and then I'm going to do the whole song for you. I'm going to read the whole song for you because I just think it's that good. The first lines are, "Well, you know I'm not much good at writing letters, so I gave up and decided that I'd call." Anybody? That's Don Williams. Don Williams. And Bob Dill wrote the song. Now, Bob Dill, if you Google Bob Dill, just Bob Dill song titles, you will be shocked at the songs this guy wrote. But listen, let me start that again, Matt. And so listen to the words and tell me this is just poetry. And you can Google this song or go on YouTube and get this song and hear the full depth of this song. But here's the words. I just think this, what a great story. "Well, you know I'm not much good at writing letters, so I gave up and decided that I'd call. No, there's really not much new to tell you. Things back here, they never change at all. It snowed today, it's cold here for November, but I hear the weather's warm out there. Oh, and if you see Burt Reynolds, would you shake his hand for me and tell old Burt I've seen all his movies. Well, I hope you make the big time. I hope your dreams come true. But if Hollywood don't need you, honey, I still do." Last night I drove the truck to Amarillo. Some friends and I, we had a laugh or two. But lately we don't cut up like we used to, because all that I can think about is you. Well, I know this is what you've always wanted, but I know now that all I want is you. So if you see Burt Reynolds, would you shake his hand for me and tell old Burt I've seen all his movies. Well, I hope you make the big time. I hope your dreams come true. But if Hollywood don't need you, honey, I still do. If Hollywood don't need you, honey, I still do. Now that's a good song. That's a good one, yeah. All right, how about this one? I close my eyes only for a moment, and the moment's gone. You got it? Dust in the Wind, Kansas. See, now there's one that's more of a rock song, and I can honestly say probably Dust in the Wind is the only Kansas song that I even know. But it's I think this is a different level of writing too. Back up a minute, Matt. Say, I close my eyes only for a moment, and the moment's gone. All my dreams pass before my eyes with curiosity. And then when you see that long-haired dude playing the flute, you just know there's something there, you know. Anyway, all right. How about this one? I just thought this is, I've always thought this is the weirdest first line. I saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand. You got that one? Ever got that? Warren Zevon, Werewolves of London. Oh. How about this one? This one, I never really liked the song, but I loved the first line. I read the news today, oh boy. Beatles, Day in the Life. This one's just kind of silly, but everybody will know it. Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man, no time to talk. Now see, that's an example of like, that's not a story. That's just one of those kind of songs that you kind of sing along with. You don't even know what they're talking about. You know? Stay alive, stay alive, and you don't even know what they're. I mean, you could do that and be happy with the song. You got to know what they're talking about. Okay. This one, and again, here's country, here's Dolly, but you just gotta love the line because it's so real and it just tells you everything that's happening. Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life. See, I love that. I was with Michael Perry the past couple of days, Michael Perry, the author. And Michael Perry is especially good. He is what I call a modern throwback because he's a modern writer, but he's a throwback because if you remember old books, like books in the 1800s, and I don't mean if you remember them personally when you were growing up. I just remember if you've ever read one from the 1800s, you know they have these long sentences. These just long. I mean, it'll be one sentence will be a paragraph. Our English teachers would have failed us for anything Daniel Defoe wrote. Anything, anything that I mean, if you turned in a chapter of Moby Dick, you'd get a failing grade. You'd get run-on sentences. That's what they'd say. But Michael Perry can write run-on sentences that make sense. And see, that's the thing, is if you read those old books, the run-on sentences, you get to where they're so convoluted, they don't even make any sense. But listen to that dolly, that run-on sentence. Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life. See, I love number one, that's a long sentence. But then she rhymes it. That's what I always loved about Jerry Reed. You know, Jerry Reed, he wasn't real highbrow. You know, this was Amos Moses, When You Hot, You Hot. And but remember, She Got the Gold Mine, I Got the Shaft. Remember that song? That song had the best run-on rhyming that I've ever heard. The first song is, I think it's back in 73 when eating my cooking got the better of me, and I asked this little girl I was going with to be my wife. Well, she said she would, and I said I do, but I'd have said I wouldn't if I'd have just knew how saying I do was going to screw up all of my life. I mean, that is just a brilliant line. If I'd have written that, I'd have been looking around for somebody to high five. Come on, what do you say? All right, how about this one? First line. Busted flat in Baton Rouge, headed for a train. Feeling nearly faded as my jeans. Got it? This guy back here, I mean, you're on them, man. You got them all. He's like, yep, got it. Yep, got it. So that is me and Bobby McGee. Chris Christopherson wrote that. The helicopter flying, Golden Gloves boxing, songwriting, Chris Christopherson. That's him. Now, I don't know who wrote this, but you'll know it. Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots. Yeah, you got it. That's Friends in Low Places. And do you know, before Garth came out with that, Mark Chestnut recorded it, put it out. Garth's people got Garth to record it and put it out a month later, and it was the Garth version that took off. Seemed kind of sneaky to me, but I've never said anything to either of them. How about this one? He said, I'll love you till I die. There's a lot of lists that place that as the #1 country music song of all time. George Jones, He Stopped Loving Her Today. He said, I'll love you till I die. How about, now here's another Christopherson one. He was brilliant, obviously, but I love this first song. Well, I woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head that didn't hurt. Sunday morning coming down. I think Johnny Cash recorded that first. Okay, here's one. I'm going to do the whole song for you too. But first of all, you got to see if you get the first line. First thing I remember knowing was a lonesome whistle blowing. Anybody? You got it? Yeah, he got it, yeah. Merle Haggard, Mama Tried. And he wrote this song, and it was kind of to his mama because he was 21 and in prison. And but this is just a brilliant story song and rhyme scheme and all. So here we go. First thing I remember knowing was a lonesome whistle blowing and a youngin's dream of growing up to ride on a freight train leaving town, not knowing where I'm bound, and no one could change my mind but Mama tried. One and only rebel child from a family meek and mild, my mama seemed to know what lay in store. Despite all my Sunday learning, toward the bad I kept on turning, till Mama couldn't hold me anymore. And I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried, Mama tried to raise me better, but her pleading I denied. That leaves only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried. Dear old Daddy, rest his soul, left my mom a heavy load. She tried so very hard to fill his shoes. Working hours without rest, wanted me to have the best. She tried to raise me right, but I refused. And I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried, Mama tried to raise me better, but her pleading I denied. That leaves only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried. Kind of sad, even though it was her own fault, because Mama tried. But what a great song. I mean, that's just... Here's a Willie beginning. See, now I knew I was going to do this when I started. I knew I was going to start tending toward country because I just like them better. Okay. All right. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I should have. You're always on my mind. Remember that? You be in the dark, you know. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Yep, Willie's always on my mind. Now here is one that I get kind of a weird feeling every time I hear it. I really like this song, but it seems that every time I hear it, it's on a movie about the Vietnam War. Something's happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. Remember that? Buffalo Springfield? And I don't know, man, it just seems like I just see guys walking across a rice paddy with that creepy music going on. That's what that brings them to me every time I hear that song. Here's a song I heard 3 or 4 nights a week for 5 years. And I always thought of all of Kenny Rogers' songs, this was the best first line. On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere. Remember Kenny's voice? On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere. Kenny could carry a tune, but he could barely sing. On a warm summer's evening. And that doesn't really sound like him, does it? Does that sound? It probably sounds exactly like on a warm summer. No? Okay. But he had that kind of growl. Man, you want to see Kenny Rogers at his best. Look at YouTube, first edition, Ruby. Remember Ruby? Don't Take Your Love to Town? Kenny Rogers, when he was with the first edition, they did that on the midnight special. Kenny had an earring in his ear and had groovy purple-looking glasses, kind of long hair. But man, his voice, it was the best for that song. You know who wrote that song? Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town. Anybody? Raise your hand if you know. Nobody knows. Mel Tillis. Mel Tillis wrote that song. I did a lot of stuff with Mel. He had a brother that looked a lot like him, was a little older, and used to run a bread truck. And Mel called him Bread Man. So Bread Man ran Mel's merchandise. How about this one? Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Now go, cat, go. Carl Perkins wrote that and recorded it in 1955. But just like the Mark Chestnut, Garth Brooks thing, Elvis recorded it right after, and Carl Perkins and Elvis wasn't friends no more. Because nobody remembers Carl Perkins' version of this. So, by the way, I have some blue suede shoes. No applause. I just want you to know that I have them. I don't wear them very often. My wife gave them to me, and she likes me to wear them sometimes when we go out. And speaking of Elvis, there is this clothing shop in the Peabody Hotel in Memphis, and I'm pretty sure it's still there. But they're famous because they dressed the king. You know, that's where Elvis used to buy his clothes. But now they've kind of delved in some extra stuff. So 4 or 5 years ago, I was on their mailing list for some reason. And Polly says I'm a sucker for a mailing list. She says, God forbid Andy is at home sick because we start getting all this stuff from 800 numbers. And it's true. I watch these commercials and I go, yeah, that's a great idea. I think I need that. And so anyway, on the mailing list of this clothing store, they were shoes that looked like dress shoes. I mean, they looked like dress shoes. They had the buckle on them and everything, but they were blue and they were all plastic. And so I don't know why I thought I needed those, but I bought them. I wore them up here several times, didn't I? Do you remember those shoes? You don't remember those shoes? You just blocked it out of your mind. It was so horrific, you blocked it out of your mind. But I haven't worn them in years. And so the other night, well, it was Valentine's. And I said to Polly, I said, what you want me to wear? We're going to Big Fish, eat dinner tonight. What do you want me to wear? She says, well, what do you got? So I go in my closet and I pick out a pair of pants and a shirt. She said, you got a different shirt? Yes. So I go get another shirt. She said, yeah, that'll be good. And get your blue shoes. I said, okay, I will. So when I dressed, I came in and I said, what do you think? I had on the plastic shoes. She said, get those stupid things off. All right, how about this one? Jeremiah was a bullfrog. There isn't a human alive that don't know that. I think of the 6th grade when I hear that song on the swing set at Hurd Elementary School in the 6th grade. Jeremiah was a bullfrog, was a good friend of mine. I don't know why, but that's what comes into my mind. And Hoyt Axton wrote that. I knew Hoyt. And Hoyt also wrote Never Been to Spain. He wrote the No-No song. You remember that? The No-No song for Ringo Starr. No, 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 I don't smoke it no more. I just got myself off the floor. That song. And my favorite Hoyt Axton song he wrote was Della and the Dealer. Anybody remember that? Della and the Dealer and a dog named Jake and a cat named Kalamazoo left Tucson in a pickup truck, gonna make some dreams come true. That's a great story song. If that cat could talk, what a tale he'd tell about Della and the Dealer and the dog as well. But the cat was smart and he never said a mumbling word. You know, Hoyt Axton's mother, May, lived in a big white column mansion in Nashville. And we all called her Mama May. and she wrote Heartbreak Hotel. And in her kitchen, she had this plaque in her kitchen with, and this was 25 years ago. It had like a billion airplays. And she told me in her kitchen, she said, that song still pays my rent, and my rent ain't cheap, honey. Here's a Beatles song that I always liked. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. It's your clue that the Beatles were Catholic. That's what it is. Who knew? Who knew the Beatles were Catholic? How many of you guys have Baptist roots? Baptist? Me too. Polly and I both grew up Baptist. Then we went to the Methodist church for a long time. Just wanted a second opinion, I guess. That whole sprinkling immersion thing, just like. What about Episcopals? Any Episcopals? No Episcopals? Usually Episcopals, anytime you find 3 or 4, you'll find a 5th. Any Catholics? Catholic? All right. Well, y'all say hey to Mary. They never let us talk to her growing up. How about this one? Oh, mama, I'm in fear for my life from the long arm of the law. Raise your hand if you know it. He knows it, yeah. That is from Styx, Renegade. Tommy Shaw wrote that and sang it. Styx, to be like a rock band, they had some great songs. Sail Away. They had, what was the one that everybody has? Lady. I mean, they sang a song called Lady. Kenny Rogers did a different Lady. Lionel Richie did a different Lady. And then Little River Band did a song called Lady. That's 4 different ladies. All right, this is the last song. I'm going to give you the first line. Then I'm going to tell you who did it, and then I'm going to do the song to you. Because this is one of my top 3 favorite. I just think the writing on this, I think the song is great, but I think the writing on this is unbelievable. The first line is, when I was a kid, Uncle Remus put me to bed. Anybody? Anybody? Raise your hand. Anybody? No? I am fixing to blow your minds. And you have to promise me that when this broadcast is through, or when you guys get back to your condos or wherever you're going, you have to put Don Williams, Good Old Boys Like Me on YouTube. Don Williams, Good Old Boys Like Me. This is another one that Bob McDill wrote. And this one, and I'm going to do it, well, here's the worst of this song. And I just think, I talked to Michael Perry about this song while we were out. This is just one of the smartest songs. I guess, or let's put it this way. To write this song, you got to be smart. You got to be well read. I talk to a lot of people today who want to write. And they'll say, I want to write a book. I want to do a book. I'm a songwriter, blah, 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 blah. And somewhere in a conversation, I'll ask them, like, what do you read? How much do you read? And I don't find many people that read very much. And I can promise you, if you're not a big reader, you're not going to be a decent writer. You're just not. Reading is what increases your perspective. It increases your vocabulary. It increases your understanding. It trains you to think deeply. And anybody that's not, I mean, if you're wanting to write a book and you ain't read, if you want to write a book, read one first. That's my clue. All right, so here is, I just think about the depth, the vocabulary, the connections. All right, here we go. When I was a kid, Uncle Remus would put me to bed with a picture of Stonewall Jackson above my head. Then Daddy'd come in to kiss his little man with gin on his breath and a Bible in his hand. He talked about honor and things I should know. Then he staggered a bit as he went out the door. I can still hear the soft southern winds in the live oak trees. And those Williams boys, they still mean a lot to me. Hank in Tennessee. I guess we're all going to be what we're going to be. So what do you do with good old boys like me? Nothing makes a sound in the night like the wind does. But you ain't afraid if you're washed in the blood like I was. The smell of Kate Jasmine through the window screen, John R. and the Wolfman kept me company. By the light of the radio by my bed, with Thomas Wolfe whispering in my head, I can still hear the soft southern winds in the live oak trees. And those Williams boys, they still mean a lot to me. Hank in Tennessee. I guess we're all going to be what we're going to be. So what do you do with good old boys like me? When I was in school, I ran with a kid down the street. I watched him burn himself up on bourbon and speed. But I was smarter than most, and I could choose. Learned to talk like the man on the 6 o'clock news. When I was 18, Lord, I hit the road. But it really don't matter how far I go. I can still hear the soft southern winds and the live oak trees. And those Williams boys, they still mean a lot to me. Hank in Tennessee. I guess we're all going to be what we're going to be. So what do you do with good old boys like me? Yeah, what do you do with good old boys like me? How about that? I mean, that is a heck of a song. And that is the Blue Plate Special for today. Thank you guys for being here. So we appreciate you guys joining us at home. And thank you guys for being here. And we'll see you Thursday. We'll be in on Thursday. Bye-bye.